Iancu. I am the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and the Director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, which we call the USPTO. So at the USPTO, primarily, we examine patents and issue patents and register trademarks. But we also lead the United States policy when it comes to intellectual property and innovation. And importantly, we have a very special relationship with the National Inventors Hall of Fame. What I appreciate most about the Hall of Fame is how they tell and share the stories of their inductees, the nation's most important inventors, through leadership programs, through children's education programs, through museum exhibits, and special events that only the National Inventors Hall of Fame can provide. So to help us begin telling the stories of the 2020 inductees, we have with us today the Executive Vice President of the National Inventors Hall of Fame, Rini Paiva.
Thank you so much, and
Yay.
thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rini, and we'll hear a lot more from her. But before we reveal the latest inductees, I just want to take a moment to share a bit about our partnership between the USPTO and the Inventors Hall of Fame. A partnership that began at the very start of the Hall of Fame in 1973. This partnership is critically important to our mission of promoting intellectual property literacy. The Hall of Fame helps us to preserve the legacies of visionary patent holders and to scale these stories out to reach people who will invent in the future. The USPTO is fortunate to have the Hall of Fame Museum located in our headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia, and we are proud to support their efforts to bring educational programming, including camp invention, to children across the United States. So every year we support the Hall of Fame in their work with literally hundreds of thousands of children, our country's future inventors and entrepreneurs. But most importantly, they work to honor our most successful inventors. Rini, let us start perhaps with you sharing a little bit about how Hall of Fame inductees are selected in the first place.
Sure, absolutely. So we continuously invite the public to submit nominations for world-changing inventors. So every nominee needs to hold a US patent. And then beyond that, their work really needs to do something to change our life, make it better, progress society. We perform intensive research and vetting on these nominees, and when we get that information back, we share it with a panel of experts, experts from science, technology, engineering, patents, and they review that information and they decide which nominees look good to them, make recommendations, and then the nominees are ratified by our selection board. So that's how we've gotten to the point where we are today.
All right, great. So now it is time to reveal the 2020 inductees. So Rini, please get us started.
Great, we've been waiting for this. So I'd like to start with our historical inductees who are going to be recognized this year. So first we have the inventors of a revolutionary medication that many of us, I reach for regularly, and that is ibuprofen. So pharmacologist Stuart Adams and chemist John Nicholson, they worked together in the 1950s trying to find new treatments for rheumatoid arthritis. So their result, ibuprofen, has given us one of the safest, most effective, and widely used treatments to treat pain, fever, and of course, inflammation.
All right, so representing a completely different field, we will also induct James Abercrombie and Harry Cameron, who invented the blowout preventer in the 1920s. This was the world's first reliable device to successfully contain dangerous oil well blowouts. Abercrombie, who was, by the way, an oil driller, and Cameron, who worked as a machinist, understood that any uncontrolled release of oil or natural gas can be deadly. So, by inventing a device that controlled pressure and kept blowouts from happening, these inventors helped save countless lives.
And since we're talking about safety, I can mention our next inductee, who is Edward Bullard. He is the inventor of the hard hat and the founder of the Bullard Company. It's hard to imagine work sites today without that essential piece of safety equipment. So he served in the U.S. Army during World War I, and he based his initial design on the doughboy helmet that he had to wear. And today, of course, hard hats protect millions of people in industries around the world.
Our next inductee is Evelyn Barisan. She was an expert in logic design and data transmission, and she designed one of the earliest computer reservation systems for airlines. Not only that, but she and her colleagues went on to develop the first computerized word processor. This was one of the first commercial products to contain a microprocessor, so there is no denying the impact that this inductee's work has made.
And moving right along from data technology, we are going into the field of agriculture. Our next inductee is Frank Z Bock. So he was a farmer, he was a metal worker, and he was also the inventor of the center pivot irrigation system. He developed this system in the mid-20th century, and it revolutionized agricultural production. It spread from America's heartland really to farms all across the world.
And rounding out our historical inductees for 2020 is Floyd Smith. His story is genuinely fascinating. He was a trapeze artist who later became an aviator, and he invented, get this, the modern parachute. Smith's design allowed an aviator to carry the parachute on their back and open it manually. He patented this design in 1918, and that set the standard for the U.S. military, saving lives through the two world wars and beyond.
We've made it through the historical inductees. Thank you so much for helping share this remarkable group of inventors. So now we have some living inventors to share, because of course we have living members of the class of 2020. So I'm going to start with that. We're absolutely thrilled to recognize this first team of inventors. They are trailblazers. Lisa Lindahl, Hinda Miller, and Polly Smith are the inventor of the sports bra. So before this invention, there was no way, there were no garments that could really adequately support a woman during athletic activities. So this design was commercialized in 1979, and it's led to greater inclusivity for women in athletics, and it's really impacted just overall health and well-being for women. So for us, this is a really inspiring legacy to recognize with the Hall of Fame.
By the way, let me take this opportunity to recognize the critical importance of increasing the number of women inventors in the United States. And these inductees, as well as the prior historical inductee that we mentioned, goes a long way to encourage more female inventors and entrepreneurs. All right, we also have another exciting trio to be inducted. The team of Corning researchers Dana Bookbinder, Ming Jung Lee, and Pushkar Tandon, who invented bend insensitive clear curve optical fiber. That was a mouthful. Because it can bend without significant signal loss, it could reach locations that were previously inaccessible to optical fiber. This is a breakthrough technology that has advanced data transmission and provided greater bandwidth with fiber to the home applications.
And next up, we have the team of Sylvia Blankenship, a horticulturalist, and Edward Sisler, a biochemist. They invented 1-MCP, and while the name of this invention is unfamiliar to most of us, we see the results all the time when we shop for produce or visit the florist. 1-MCP, it's had a major impact on reducing food waste, and it also really supports our year-round accessibility to fresh fruit, vegetables, and cut flowers.
Turning now to the medical field, we will be inducting biomedical engineer James McEwen, who is the inventor of the automatic surgical tourniquet system. McEwen used a microprocessor to control the pressure in a tourniquet, which was safer and more efficient than previous technology. Now, almost all modern tourniquet systems are based on McEwen's work, and his innovations ensure safer outcomes for about 20,000 surgeries across the world each day.
And also in the medical field, we have Rox Anderson, who we're going to be recognizing for his work in laser dermatology. So his techniques use light to target specific structures within the skin without damaging any surrounding structures. So the treatments based on his work can be used to remove birthmarks, reduce scarring, remove skin lesions, and this really greatly improves the quality of life for these folks. And then taking a turn into a completely different field, we're also going to be recognizing industrial chemist Margaret Wu, another woman. Her work has changed the way automobiles and industrial lubricants are really designed. And they can be used for applications for anything from car engines to wind turbines. And I should also mention she was the first woman to be recognized at ExxonMobil Research and Engineering as a senior scientific advisor. This is the highest technical rank in the company. So she's a pioneer really in more ways than one.
And now we have one more team of inventors to reveal. I'm thrilled to say that we will be inducting the inventors of the Kiva system, Mick Mountz, Peter Verman, and Raf D'Andrea. This is a groundbreaking system of mobile robotic material handling for order fulfillment, which has dramatically advanced distributor center operations. Kiva Systems was acquired by Amazon in 2012, and this technology has transformed our expectations of the online shopping experience. And I'm so excited to share that the two members of this team are not just alive and living inventors and inductees, but they are here with us today. So thank you, Mick and Raf. Thank you for joining us.
And Mick and Raf, I just want to say that on behalf of everyone here at the National Inventors Hall of Fame, congratulations on your upcoming honor. We're so grateful that you've joined us here today, and we're just happy to welcome you to the National Inventors Hall of Fame family.
Thank you, Rini. Thank you, Andrei. We're very honored.
Thank you.
For the recognition. Thrilled to be here. Wish our colleague Pete could be with us today, but we'll do our best to channel Pete through the Q&A.
All right, great. So this really is an outstanding class of inductees. So one big round of applause for all of the inductees for 2020 National Inventors Hall of Fame. Okay, so I'd like to now engage in a bit of a conversation with our two most recent inductees. Mick and Raf, let's start a bit of a discussion and start things off. Tell us a little bit about the story behind Kiva, about its development. How did you come up with it? What did you do? What was the ultimate impact? Please.
So Kiva was a solution to a problem that I had seen firsthand in e-commerce order fulfillment warehousing. Up until that point in time, much of the material handling that you found in warehouses dealt with pallets in and cases out, and they were called distribution centers for distributing to retailers. But the problem that e-commerce presented was we needed one red, one green, and one blue in a box mailed to the house. Classic, what we know as classic fulfillment today. So the existing systems didn't work. So Raf and I and Pete had the opportunity to start with basically a blank sheet. And we said, how should this problem be solved correctly? And we started with the notion of what if the products could walk and talk on their own? Maybe they could sort themselves out, jump in the box on their own. And obviously all that quickly led to thinking around mobile robotics, mobile shelving, and the system that ultimately became Kiva.
What's been the impact of Kiva?
I mean, one way to think about it is when we started Kiva, it was actually called This Robot. And we quickly changed the name because the name scared people, scared the clients. Robot? I mean, we want something that works, not a science experiment. I think one of the biggest impact is to show how much value autonomous mobility can bring when done properly. You know, now robotics is a household name. People are excited about doing research in robotics. They're excited about bringing it to the market. That certainly wasn't the case 15 years ago, so I think that's one of the big impacts.
Was there a aha moment, like in those cartoons where the inventor sits there at the desk and the light bulb literally goes on? Or was this more of a progressive development?
It was kind of a series of aha moments. The first year, as we were working together and collaborating on the invention, we would be on early versions of iMessage, texting each other at late hours, singing, and the ideas generation just spurred itself on because the field was wide open. Nothing had been done in the field before, so everything we thought of was new. Hey, we could make it do this. Oh, we could do that. Oh, we could do X. Oh, we could do Y. And so it was a series of once you had the insight that everything in the warehouse could store, move, and sort using mobile robots, it flowed from there. What would you add?
No, I mean, I think there's ups and downs. I think that was the most exciting part of the first couple of years because, as you said, everything that you thought of, you could try to bring to life. Sometimes it didn't work, but more often than not, it did.
Now, you guys were a team of 3 folks. We hear a lot from inventors that collaboration is critically important to the innovation process. What do you think about that? Was collaboration important to you?
Well, it was certainly critical for me. I was kind of the original idea guy, and I could frame the problem, and I knew about the issues inside the warehouse, but I had no clue about how to build a robot or write the software. And that's where my co-founders, Pete and Raf, came in very quickly. Were able to put some metal behind the idea, I guess, if you will. But you could elaborate more on the collaborations.
I mean, I think it's like a team. If you play sports, the individual is important, right? But you can't do anything on a soccer field or a football field unless you have your teammates. I think it's the exact same thing. You have to think that you can change the course of the company, but realize that everyone around you should be thinking the same way and that you can't do it without them.
And it's complementary skills, too, which we found worked really well at Kiva. I mean, just like on a basketball team, you need the tall person, the fast person, the good passer, the good rebounder. We had all the bases covered.
Who was the tall person?
I was the tall person, but that was just a height, actually.
I was the fast guy.
So, considering the influence that inductees can have on the Hall of Fame's educational programs, by the way, you'll find out that this is one of the most important functions you will have as a Hall of Fame inductee, which is help out with the education program, reaching out to the children and the inventors of the future. But given that that is one of the most important aspects of the Hall of Fame, can you guys think back to your own childhoods? And do you recall any particular experiences that might have influenced your innovation career?
My childhood was characterized by just lots of continuous invention and challenges, everything from Lego kits to erector sets, which is, I'm dating myself now. But my mother would spur curiosity through, posing interesting science questions about why the clothes were sparking as she took them out of the dryer, which would cause me to go and do research on that issue. And then my father encouraged collaboration and teamwork by challenging us to go after leadership positions and do our best. And I think the combination of that stuff was inspirational for me in realizing that if there was something that you saw that wasn't right, you could change it. And you could apply your scientific kind of methods and principles to go make a change.
I mean, I think a lot of experimentation. I did tons of experiments as a little kid, some of them very dangerous, involving combustibles and whatnot. I think just curiosity and not accepting things for what they are and just questioning everything.
Did you ever get close to blowing up your childhood home?
Maybe not blowing it up, but I did create chlorine gas in the basement and had to evacuate the house. Lots of little stories like that.
You know, many inventors tell me that one of the keys to invention is to not be afraid. Do not fear failure. So I guess if you grow up trying to blow up things, I guess without much fear, then your path to invention is set.
I think that's what, as a parent now, I have 2 young children. You have to, have a fine line. You want them to experiment things, but you also don't want them to do permanent damage to themselves.
So good. That's a good balance. So other than that piece of advice, what advice would you all have to aspiring inventors?
My advice is always pretty classic, which is start with the problem. I can't tell you the number of robotics startups that have approached me because they want to build a robot. And I always ask them, what is the problem they're trying to solve? And then it gets them thinking about actually the value proposition and the application of the technology. I know that's kind of boring advice, but starting with the problem, and I think a lot of great inventions started with a real problem and somebody figured out an innovative way to solve it. So I always get people focused on that.
Absolutely. I think the other part is always question, the status quo. Don't just take things as given. Be critical of the way that things solve problems today, and try to think of better ways of doing it. Try to figure things out on your own before just trying to copy somebody else.
Another critical aspect of what I hear from the greatest inventors that allow them to succeed is that folks have had good mentors or role models. Have you experienced that, and who would you say might have been your main mentors or role models, if you had any?
I don't think of like role models or mentors so much in a direct way as just indirect inspiration from all of the inventors that have gone before. So we would go to the Smithsonian Museum in DC and see the Wright brothers airplanes or the Apollo stuff, go to the Kennedy Space Center, and all of that stuff just struck me as so inspirational and mind-blowing that you can change the world. Those are the things that kind of spurred me to aspire to make changes in my industry, which was inside of a warehouse.
I think that, I don't really have any one particular person. I think I try to lead my life so that I'm surrounded by people that inspire me all the time. Mick and Pete inspired me. They do things differently than I would. I try to look at the best of what people do and try to extract from them. My children inspire me, the way that they look at things, very fresh ideas. My friends, my colleagues. I think anyone can be a source of inspiration by just looking at them and saying, what is it that they do better than me, and how can I try to do things as well as they do?
And I have to say, you two and all the inductees from this year inspire me and inspire all of us. And with that, it's time to wrap up. I want to say thanks once again for all of you for joining in the announcement of this year's class of inductees and for sharing your stories with us. It's really, really meaningful. Rini?
Yes, and it's been a pleasure sitting here listening to you answer these questions, and we look forward to you being such a great inspiration for so many of the younger generations. So thank you.
And thanks again.
Thank you for having us.
So before we go, I do want to encourage everybody to save the date for the 48th Annual National Inventors Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which will take place on May 7th, 2020 in Washington, D.C.